I got into the best physical shape possible that I thought would make me happy, and it never felt the most empty I've ever been.
Is this guy everything that he preaches? Because it didn't feel like you were trying to help me.
Yeah.
It just felt like you were wanting to win.
But I've got no life. I'm great at completing a loop. I'm great at completing a pattern. No one will come close to me but with him.
David is a human performance coach, educator, former professional footballer, and RAF serviceman, helping the modern man escape default living and build a life by design. Through his brand, The Uncommon Life, he blends mindset, movement, and lifestyle strategy to help people create a capable body, an obedient mind, and a purposeful life. Known for his grounded, no-fluff approach, David shares powerful insights on performance, identity, discipline, modern masculinity, and what it truly means to live intentionally in today's world. Like you said, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Long time coming, mate. I'm very excited to be here.
We've spoken about it a lot. And I remember when I first started talking to you about coming on the Mentality Podcast was because we've shared football pitch, I think a couple of times together. But for me, it was the whole concept of how you approached life in general. Like from the football field to your, like the daily stuff. And I think even just post-COVID, watching you do what it was that you were doing, where you were doing your dailies and just continued with that. A lot of people fell off after that.
Yeah.
You just continued with that. And I just thought to myself, this is somebody who has captured what it means to operate in your own sovereign self as a man, and just to walk in that and just be comfortable in who you are. And I always wanted to bring that into conversation, because that's one of the things that I talk a lot about in Mentality is finding who you are, your core, and being true to it. So I guess that's a great start to kind of introduce you in. And for those that don't know who you are, like, who's David Webb?
David Webb is a name I was given a reference point to walk this world with, and it's taken me a long time to give that answer. I always used to give a job title. I always used to give a status, a background that I'm just me. I am here. I've accumulated a lot of experience from past military service, 9 years in the UK, Air Force, many semi-professional football teams, many promotions, many working with CEOs, working with high performance executives, working with officers in the Air Force. And I'm just a person that has accumulated years of experience, and I'm here to share what I've learned today.
I'm so glad you started with that, because that wasn't where I was going to go with the conversation. But as you know, and as most of the people that actually have conversations with me know, I love a good curveball. So I'm going to go straight to the military. Usually I start with childhood and how that kind of built you. I'm going to go straight to the military. You mentioned you were in the RAF. Engineer.
Physical training instructor.
Physical training instructor. But your father was an engineer in the RAF.
No. Here we go. My granddad was in the RAF. My cousin is in the RAF, but my dad was in the army. So I grew up with an army background.
Okay. How does the army differ to the RAF in terms of approach and discipline then?
The army live in tents, the RAF live in hotels.
Okay.
No, that's a running joke, but like there's a lot of things in the army where they are a bit more frontline, let's say.
Okay.
And on the ground, the Air Force is in the air. So the main power for us was Air Force fighter jets and air to air combat.
Okay.
So the army are on the ground, we're above.
Okay. So in terms of growing up then, and the impact of an army dad, like on you as a person, what then inspired you to go and join the military? After, and we're gonna unpack it, but after all that, like what then makes you think, let me go and live that lifestyle too?
We're going to unpack it. I can feel my body tingling and opening up. What led me to that? I didn't know where I was going to go. I was 16 at the time. I got released from Tranmere. We'll obviously go through that, but got released by a football club that I was promised the world, and I was built up to be this next big thing. And then 16 to 18 kind of filtered around a football scholarship. Then that lasted like a year and a half. And then I went back to sixth form a year behind, And then I
Okay.
I did the sixth form for 2 years, but I was obviously a year behind with the years. And then it was starting to come to like, oh, university's coming up. I was like, nah, I'm a practical guy. I'm not one to really, or back then I wasn't one to hit the books and be that focused on education. And then my dad was like, why don't you join the military? I was like, what? Why don't you join the Air Force then? I wouldn't want you to join the Army, he said, but join the Air Force. And if you're good at sport, you'll get looked after like a professional athlete.
Fair.
And I was like, okay. But then you'll also get a trade. And I was like, right, let's just have a look at it. So then ball started rolling. I went in and did my aptitude test for air traffic controller. That was my first.
Good start.
Kind of what I was starting for. Failed by 1 mark.
Oh, man.
Failed by 1 mark. And the reason it was air traffic controller, because it was almost this is a well sought after job. You kind of get a big skill set, but then the pay is good.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that could be one. Failed. And everything happens for a reason. Then someone said to me, oh, but you've opened up this bracket. Everything else below it, you're available for.
Excellent.
Physical training instructor is available. And I was like, what's that? And then that was essentially being in the gym, being the guy to make sure the soldiers and military staff are fit to deploy and do their jobs. Right. I was like, that fits the bill.
Sounds like a bit of you.
So that's how it started. And then they said, but there's only 15 spaces and we've had over 2,000 applicants.
Okay.
But,
how did that make you feel in the moment then? Knowing that, okay, well, this sounds like a bit of what I would like to do. How did that make you feel in the moment?
There's something here that I didn't think I would feel. There's something worth exploring. I was doing it just to kind of have something to pursue. I didn't want to join the military necessarily. I wasn't a cadet growing up or anything like that. My dad was only in for 3 years while I was 1 to 3 or 0 to 3. So I never experienced moving around or anything like that. But I was like, okay, there's something where I can start off and actually be on a good wage from a very young age.
What drove you in that moment? I guess is the survival, having a job, having a purpose, so to speak, in that moment makes sense. But what drove you? Because knowing you could be one of 15 when there were over 2,000 plus applicants, what drove you to actually push for it?
Thinking back to it, I don't think there wasn't a drive. And what I mean by that was there wasn't right, I need this. There was no like urgency around it. There was okay, so how do I apply for that? And it was, when I look back, it was probably the fact I didn't overthink it made me more successful. Because I wasn't, those people in that or applying for that role that had waited for 5 years because it closed, because they made redundancies. Okay. So people within that 5 year were like, right, I'm going to wait for it to come up. And so many people were just waiting for this moment. The moment arrived for me. Didn't overthink the right time. Didn't overthink it. And it arrived exactly how it was meant to. So then we went to like the vetting. We did the first test, passed that. Then we went to a vetting, which was maybe 30 of us. We went to the School of Physical Training and actually did like a vetting to assess if you're good enough for the role. Okay. Because that's one of the only roles that you go straight in as a corporal. Okay. So you skip like 4 ranks instantly. Wow. So you do a proper vetting, like, right, go and lead that class on that instruction. Go and, you've got a fitness test, you've got to do that. Then you've got to do a 1.5 miles as quick as you can. So there's all these different things from a fitness, a leadership, and kind of like maturity standpoint. I see. Which you had to do beforehand.
I see. And the people that you were, in essence, competing against. Yeah. Who were these kind of people? People with backgrounds in the military, people with families in the military, people who were already physical trainers. I mean,
families definitely who've grown up and moved around with the military, so that they wanted to be a part of it. It's just a part of their upbringing. People with strength and conditioning degrees, they've gone to university, they're 26, they've kind of done their traveling, they've explored the world. Now they're like, right, I want a career. Whereas I was still in sixth form at the time, hadn't had any experience of the world, very wet behind the ears. Turned up in this cream beige suit, which stood out, which was me to a T. And yeah, I didn't even realize at the time. I don't think I thought too much into it, but I knew I was the youngest. I was the youngest by far. I was 17 when I went for the testing and the vetting. They were some were 23, 25, 27 kids.
But that's nothing that's new to you, though, because on the little bit of kind of delving into your life that I had access to, it's not new to you to be the youngest in a very competitive field, which is where I was kind of going with it, right?
Yeah.
There is this nature of you actually existing in an environment that you should really drown in, right? Let's talk a little bit about kind of growing up and how big a role sports played and how well you did, as I said, in that kind of environment when you were competing with people that had been doing it for much, much longer.
Yeah. Sports has always been a big thing within my upbringing, and I'm extremely grateful to have that background and to have parents that went, get outside with the ball. So it's a very different era to now, so I can only compare it to what I see now. But back then, you're out with the ball, whether it was a golf ball, a tennis ball, a football, I was just always out. And that was kind of the way being a kid was back then, and on bikes. And then my dad used to do motocross. So my dad was racing motorbikes, and I just went to watch when I was young, and I was like, oh, all right, being a kid. Next minute, he got me a bike. So then I got into it.
Nice.
And then, you know what, we'll come on to this, but I'm extremely blessed to have a father who put his life on hold for me. And now I understand about how humans evolve and how we're meant to evolve. He just lived through me and wanted me to do so well and wanted me to be so successful that everything he did was all driven around, what does David need? I've got my sister as well, and he did that for both of us, but because I was the boy, it kind of led down that way. And he gave me a bike, and because he was a senior and I was a junior, when he finished his race, I was racing next.
Right.
So it was always the seniors, then straight back to the juniors. Right. So we had to make a decision. It was my mum getting me ready and then getting me on the line as he'd come in and rush around. And he went, you know what, I'll quit. You've got much more potential than me.
Wow.
And you do it.
Wow. So you were how old when you started?
5. 5 when I started motocross.
On a motocross bike.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it'll be after school where on a Wednesday, for example, I'll have football training on a Tuesday and Thursday. So I was just playing football. Then on a Wednesday, we'd go travel maybe 30, 40 minutes, find a motocross track. We'd practice. He'd just go and ride, go and enjoy it.
And how did you feel when he gave you that bike? Because I can imagine as a son myself and as a father of sons, there's a certain level of pride as a father when you kind of pass down a skill to your son, right? One of my sons said to me the other day, it's like, Daddy, when can I come and watch you play again?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, but earlier on we're touching on the point of me wanting to play one more season.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that just for him.
Yeah.
Right? But on the flip side, 10 years, 15 years from now, if he then turns around and says, oh, I got into football because of my dad, that for me would be something that I couldn't put a value on, right? Yeah. So as a child who obviously not so much aspires to be like your dad, but sees your dad doing these things, doing something that's very manly, very kind of, masculine, and doing well at it, to then he hands you a bike and then says to you, you're better than I am, you're more competitive, you've got more of a chance. How does that make you feel? I'm asking you to tap back in.
You are, yeah. I was very young, so as I say, I was 5. And from what I can remember, this is what I can remember. There was less about the feeling, more about an experience. And it was probably the first half a year of racing. There was a lad in front of me, and I went to all these little bikes, going around this little grass track.
Yeah.
Brakes slammed on, and I've gone over the handlebars, and my head has ended up in the back of someone's tire. So where the tire and the mudguard is here, I am in between. My head is in between. And he doesn't know what's going on because he's just riding forward. I'm in the back of his wheel with fumes going in my helmet and all kinds going on. And he's trying to ride off thinking, wow, I'm stuck. And I'm stuck in this wheel. And then there was that point, and my dad's like, everything came to a stop, and I just remember it just went so slow, everything slowed down. And then afterwards, my dad was like, look, whatever you want to do after this. I was like, I want to carry on. I got up and carried on riding.
Excellent.
And my dad was like, come on, son, you've got it.
Excellent.
And I got back on the bike. There was 2 laps left and I finished the laps.
You can't teach that though.
Can't teach it. But there was that support to go, you can do it. And growing up looking at, it's just natural who you're surrounded by and who brings you into the world and who is there to support you from a young age. Naturally, you just look up and go, okay, so this is the way the world works. I copy you, right?
Yeah.
You're my role model.
Yeah.
And hear him say, you've got this, you can do it. That just kind of then...
Yeah, I think beyond that, I think you've undercooked it a little bit. If my son hurts himself playing a sport,
yeah,
whether it's parkour or gymnastics or whatever, swimming or jiu-jitsu, amongst many things that he does. And I ask him, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to continue. At that age, that is something, like I said, you can't teach that.
Yeah.
You can't teach the fight. You can't teach the willingness to continue in front of adversity. So that's where I'm seeing that all of this started. Who you are now started at that point. Fair enough, you had great role models in your father and the small circle around you, but I think there was something indicative, something that was bubbling from a young age that you had. And how did that drive your kind of motocross career at that age?
It was when you start anything new, you kind of go through a lot of natural adversity because you're new to it. It's a new skill, different environments. There's 30 bikes on a line, everyone in a line waiting for one gate to drop. And you're literally just watching it, revving the bike. As soon as it goes, everyone goes together. And it's just this skill that kind of you just get better at over time. And I think when you're younger, I can now reflect on it and be like, I don't think I thought much, I just did. And that's what flow really is, when you just grasp things and you feel things and you can just be in that moment. Right. And when you're a kid, you're probably always in that a lot of the time, just whatever comes natural. And then 5, there was a moment, and my dad was, maybe because he'd stopped, I don't know, and we've never actually spoken about this, and I've never actually delved deep enough and far back enough to even talk about it, but there was a moment, and he was always very, I remember my mum saying, stop being so hard on him. My mum was I can cry to my mum, I can talk to my mum. My dad was, come on son, crack on. Yeah. My dad's ex-military, that's all he knew. Yeah. That's how he was brought up. He was in Afghan. He'd been to very different situations. So his masculinity was more of we crack on, we get on with it, get your bag on.
As is with most men.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. So then there came a point, and I knew I'd made a mistake in a race. And I was dreading coming off. I was dreading going back to the van because I knew what I'd get. And you know what? It was never out of anger. I think it was more, I know you can do better. So I think it came from that place rather than you're not good enough. It was more about, why are you doing that? And I broke down. I think I was about...
Before you got to the van?
No, when I got to the van, it was building up. I knew it was coming. And then got there and I was waiting for it. And he started telling me about how I could have done better. And there was one thing, and he'll probably listen to this and cry himself, but I remember it. And it was, if you ride like that, we're not fucking coming again. And I said, you know what? People who know my dad know he's such a passionate and loving person. So it never came from a bad place. But as a kid, that was probably a lot of pressure to carry. And I broke down in my helmet, grabbed my goggles off, threw them, and I was sobbing, tears down my helmet. I was covered in mud from racing. And I was like, maybe if you stopped shouting at me, I'd start winning. I remember that line, and I remember it right now. It's still ingrained.
What was it? Was it the disappointment of making the mistake? Was it him shouting?
I think it was the disappointment of letting my dad down and being worried to make a mistake. One, because no kid wants to be shouted at because it's you've done a bad thing, but also I want to make you proud and you're not.
Why?
Don't know. I don't know where it came. Where did that come from?
I asked this because I like to explore the dynamics of heroism and how we as males are trained to have these superheroes that we see, right?
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the fact that usually the superheroes, the first ever superheroes we ever learned to really adore live within our households.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a toxic or abusive, it's always that person is always in your household.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to unearth, what was it about him that made you feel like you needed to make him proud?
I think it was, and this comes from a lot of like self-work that I've done over the years. Maybe it was because I felt worthy, or I got a lot of applause because I was good at things.
Okay.
And that validated me from a very young age, because naturally what I touched, I became good at.
Okay.
From a sporting aspect. And I'd get a lot of praise from doing good things. I'd be the first picked at football. I'd be a captain, maybe who'd pick the teams.
Yeah.
I was top goal scorer for the year.
Still like that now, aren't you?
Kind of like, but, yeah. Never leaves you.
Yeah.
But definitely much more grounded now. And yeah, I think it really did come from a validation and a lack of self-worth. But you don't realize when you're younger that what you attach yourself to, and I attach myself to praise, and praise means you've done good, and not a telling off, but that wasn't good enough is you failed. So yes, I wanted to make him proud, but also I just didn't want to feel like I wasn't good enough.
I hear that.
And we're talking about when I was 6 and 7, never mind when I was 25, 26.
Yeah.
And that's when the real kind of struggle came, and we'll probably get to that. But yeah, so it started quite young. But then ever since I erupted and did that, he stopped shouting at me, or he still said that was really good, but what could have been better, and let me kind of self-analyze my performance.
Yeah.
And then I became British champion back-to-back for 3 years. I then won multiple regional championships. So I think there was maybe 3 or 4 regional championships that we did every year. I'd be the one to win those, all 3 of them, for the next 3 years on the bounce.
That's good fatherhood.
Yeah.
Very, very good fatherhood. The fact that he could, in that moment, not make it about him and make it all about you and your development is incredible fatherhood. Kudos to him.
Yeah.
You mentioned, without caveating too heavily, you mentioned your sibling, your sister.
Yeah.
Your mum was obviously still very much in the equation. What was that relationship like?
She's 7 years, I think it's 7 years older than me, so there's a gap.
Okay.
So there's a big gap. And then let's say when I was 5, she was 12, 13. So she was at that age where it was always like, we're going to go to motocross together. And she's like, no, I don't want to, I've got friends. And
fair.
And that was like, okay. So I think she spent more time with my nan at that time. And she's like, okay, I'll stay at nan's and I can see my friends. And then she ended up getting a horse. So then a horse for her was her kind of social side.
Okay.
So at the weekends, she'd either come racing, 9 times out of 10, she wouldn't. She'd sit with her horse, stay with her horse, stay on the farm, stay with her friends.
So, and the dynamics in the house in terms of, because obviously it's taken a lot of dedication from the parents, right?
Yeah.
Every weekend, school, staying away, different venues, different places.
Yeah.
What was the dynamics like between you and your sibling and your parents and your sibling?
You know what, from what I can remember, it was good. And I think as you kind of go and get older, you fight over the remote, you fight over stupid things. As you do. So I don't think we had a very loving family network. So it wasn't you do this with him and from what I can remember, I was almost focused on my football, focused on motocross. Yeah, Steph, you want the remote? I want it. Carry on. Yeah. So from like what I can remember, nothing too.
Have you ever had the conversation with her?
She did. She says sometimes you were the golden child.
That's where I was going with it, right? Yeah. Because I can see how it can feel having all that time with both parents.
100%.
How, sometimes, even with the horse, how sometimes it can, I mean, I'm not in this situation, but from the outside looking in and having worked with many people that relive in their older years the moments of their childhood, and it kind of impacts them quietly. So they get on with it and they're fine, and there's no real trauma there, but it just quietly just sits under everything that they do. That's why I asked the question if she would look at it in the same manner as you do.
it'll be an interesting conversation because I think she's older as well. She was 13 at that point, so she probably has a bit of a better memory than me.
Yeah.
Definitely a conversation I should have with her.
I'll be interested to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. I think it'll be a great conversation to have. Awesome. And then there was a question when you were talking about your dad that I wanted to ask. Was there ever a time where there was any comparisons placed between your, as in like, did people say, oh, you're so much like him, you're very much like him? Like, was there ever any of that?
Yes, looks wise. 100% people say that.
Yeah.
But then getting older, probably more so when I became like 16 onwards. Not that I can remember really younger, but when I was older, yeah, there really was. And
was that in character or just looks?
Both. Some characteristics, but I think they were more talking about, and I think it was more so like mannerisms at times. And looks is definitely one of them, but I battled with that quite a bit at times.
The looks part.
Not the looks. Good looking man. Great looking chap.
Clearly, if he's been compared to you. The character.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing on my part.
Why?
I judged him
because
of what I learned about health, of what I learned about the body, of what I learned about how to be the best, not the best person, but how to live as long as possible and be happy. And the more I started to understand like the human body and the human mind and how things are working, and because I told him this actually. I actually said a few weeks ago, and a few months ago, we had an honest conversation. I said, I'm so sorry for looking at you for what you did rather than who you were, because he's obviously gone through a lot in his life and military life, and as he's evolved, it was a bit more of a drinking culture, of a smoking culture, and as he's evolved, he's stopped smoking, but then maybe has a few drinks every night, and as a lot of people do, but then I judge that and be like, and when people would go, you're just like your dad, I'm like, I'm not, because of more so the habits than the person.
Yeah.
And then as I got older and I started hanging around with more people, everyone's like, your dad's amazing. I'm like, he's not your dad, because he'd be the party, he'd be mixing with everyone. And now I look back, I'm like, fucking what a great man. I look back now and I tell him, I'm like, I'm so blessed to have such a character in my life, that because now I can accept that you can live your life how you want and I can live it how I want. I'm not here to try and change you or fix you or do anything. But
did you ever try to understand the reasons behind the choices he made?
Not when I was younger. So there was a lot of, not necessarily time lost, but there was a lot of kind of maybe negative associations in my mind with what he did, and I probably never thought why he did it. I'm like, well, if you wanted to change, you would, so you clearly don't. But it's so much deeper than that. And now I understand the mind on a much deeper level, and habits on a much deeper level, and habitual behavior. It's not as easy as that.
Yeah, it isn't. It really isn't, especially having lived the life that he lived and seen some of the things that he would have seen
exactly
on the battlefield.
100%.
It's not easy to deal with, especially when you have to come home and exist in an environment where you've got young kids to look after. The only place you can go sometimes is escape.
Yeah.
And unless you deal with it in the right way, it becomes really, really difficult. Interesting. So motocross obviously consumed a lot of what you did.
Yeah.
But I've known you for football. So when did that transition happen?
I was always playing football at the same time.
Okay.
So I played just like with friends and stuff like that from just a young age. And that was always, if we're not motocrossing, then I'll football.
Okay.
Motocross was the first one. But if there was a weekend free, I'd play football.
Right.
I'd go training still on a Tuesday, Thursday, just on the local field with the team. But I might not play, depending. And then there came a point where I'd still be playing for the school. I'd still be doing all that stuff. And it was when I was 10, I'd got definitely not to I was nowhere near the pinnacle of my motocross career, but I was the guy at the top. I was the guy to beat. And then I went randomly, my school at the time said, go for county trials. Go and represent your county, you'd be good. Okay. They put forward players. I was one of them. Then I got into the Wirral team, which was the county.
Mm-hmm.
But where the trials were held was at a Tranmere Rovers football ground. So then they had scouts obviously watching the trials. Next minute they got in touch and said, we want to sign you.
Excellent.
So it was, you've got selected for the county, excellent. You're still motocross. But then even with motocross at that point when I was 10, I had about maybe 5 or 6 sponsors.
Wow.
And it's not
such a young age.
Such a young age. And sponsorships now are rife. Sponsorships 16, 17 years ago weren't a big thing.
Right.
So I had a bike sponsor at the time. I had a cleaning sponsor at the time. I had Michelin sponsoring my tires.
Wow.
So there was a lot to kind of sacrifice. And once again, there was only a recent conversation I had with my dad and said, why did I stop? Because I could have been so much, like my football career, I never went professional, but why did I stop? And he went, the truth is I didn't want you to stop. But I went to my dad. So he went to his dad and went, Dad, what do I do? And it was my granddad that said to him, son, you've got to let him make his own choice.
Wow.
So then my dad came to me and went, son, it's your choice.
Generational wisdom. Now, I've got goosebumps when you said that. Now, see, like stuff like that is beautiful to me because, again, it's wisdom that is passed on.
Oh,
and wow,
mate, I've never delved into this type of stuff.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
That's definitely giving me goosebumps. So then your dad approaches you and says, David, what do you want to do?
When not every kid, that's a generalization, but a kid's dream is what you see on TV.
Most
professional
boys.
Footballer.
Yeah.
Most boys.
Professional
footballer, boom. That is the pinnacle. And you know what? I probably took it for granted how good I was at motocross because I was winning every week. And you know what? I think even reflecting back onto motocross, I'd win a trophy. I'd win. I'd be on top podium, number 1. And my cousin came 10th. My cousin had a trophy and he was buzzing with it. He was made up. He was smiling from ear to ear. I wouldn't smile. And my nan's like, David, smile. I'm like, the first place meant nothing to me.
Wow. Okay.
Because almost maybe because I'd done it that often and it was just...
Become numb to it.
Yeah. And it didn't mean anything. What
were you doing it for?
Which is a crazy thing to do. I enjoyed the racing, but the winning and it was like, oh yeah. But I was like, okay, next. There was never a moment where I sat in it. I was like, wow, I'm so blessed to have this result, and I'm so blessed there was no gratitude. The world revolved around David from a very young age. Thanks to my parents for being such amazing parents, but that also hindered me a lot growing up.
It would do.
Because you realise the world does not revolve around David, and you will have some rude awakenings along the way. So then got to a point where, what part are we on then? What were we saying before?
Football.
Yeah.
He's asked you about football.
Yeah. So then I can't really remember. I can't remember the actual moment he did because, as I said, I asked him maybe a year ago or so and said, why did I? And I went, you chose. And I think it was, motocross can be a very lonely sport because you're just on your own.
You're by yourself, yeah.
Yeah, because you're just on your own. And then football, you're together, there's the buzz, there's the banter, there's the lads, and the stage, the 50,000 fans, the association with football. I think that's kind of what, and I did really enjoy it. So
Tranmere come along.
Yeah.
You go over to Tranmere.
Yeah.
What happens?
There we go. Tell a lie, big point in the story I missed. I had one more race to go. One more race to go, and I went, you know what, I'll finish this race. I'll do one more, I'll go on a high. And it was like this big team event at the end of the year. You normally have, first you have practice, and then you have 3 main races.
Right.
Went out for practice, lap 2, going about 10 mile an hour. I've never had an injury on a bike. Broke my leg.
Oh.
Signed the contract with Tranmere. I said, I'll have one more race. They won't know about it. Don't tell them.
They didn't know you were racing?
Nope.
Okay.
So I signed. I was like, right, one more race, put the bike to bed, finish on a high. And at 2 laps in, I broke my leg. How? Going about 10 mile an hour. I was sussing the track out. And there was this guy it's actually in a team event, but he's gone past me that quick and he's nudged my elbow. So the wheel's gone underneath me. And then I've landed that quick and snapped and like jolted my knee that quick that the tibia came away.
Oh.
And I was going 10 mile an hour.
Oh, man.
And I'd been racing for 5 years, never had an injury.
What did you do in that moment?
get on oxygen gas as quick as you can.
But like, where does your mind go? Are you not thinking about Tranmere and the 2-year contract that you've got? Like,
the pain was too much. I was just in the moment for that, and that once again felt so slow. And the next moment I remember was in the back of the van, and I had the gas mask on. They were trying to cut my pants off, pull my boots off without hurting me, but obviously everything's so compact.
Yeah.
So then they were like, we need to rip the stuff off. And then my nan, I think at the time, was just like, rip it off. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Money's irrelevant. Rip it off. And then got to the hospital. And then I remember I was still on oxygen. I was in the bed. Leg was all swollen. And then I was going down for an operation. And I said to my mum, can we get those gold vapors, the Cristiano Ronaldo gold vapors? Can we get them when I wake up?
Priorities.
And she went, yeah. And I went, all right. I woke up. First thing I said was, can we get the vapors now? And she went, you remember? I went, yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And
did you get them?
Yeah, I did in the end.
Yeah. How were they to play in?
Oh, didn't make me Cristiano Ronaldo, but it was good.
Sensational.
It was very good.
So you actually got back to Tranmere. I mean, how did they take this leg break? I mean, you've just signed a contract, right? So how did they take the leg break?
You know what? Very good. They were really good. And it was Les Parry at the time, the first team physio. And he actually took me, because they seen such potential in me, they took me in the first team physio. Then I'd see Ian Goodison, I'd see all the first team players. I was in the stand actually getting physioed by the first team.
Incredible.
I'm 10 at the time.
Incredible.
So yeah, I was very looked after at that point, and I was like, right, okay. Got back, got playing, but I was never the same. I don't think I was ever the same player after that.
What changed?
Confidence in myself.
To be hurt or to play?
Yeah, to be hurt, yeah. For something to happen again or not be strong enough.
Which is weird, because having come from just one injury, you would think that, especially at that age, you'd think you'd just get straight back onto it. But it just goes to show so many players that do get injuries, and actually that is the catalyst or the reasons for them not playing well again.
100%.
And then on the flip side, players that do get serious injuries, and then are able to just become even better and just keep going. You've got to give them kudos for how they go about that.
100%. Then you realise how powerful the mind really is.
Correct. So 16, the football thing doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
And then there's the conversation about what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
And then you join the RAF.
Yeah. Even before that, within the football and the school years, I was bullied as well.
Okay, let's talk about that.
That was a big thing.
Let's unpack that. Bullied for what?
Bullied as a kid, being the disciplined kid, being the brown-nosed kid, being the kid that picked the cones up and helped the teacher, being the professional kid that showed up early, being the professional kid that, right, go and do a 1 mile as quick as you can. All right, no worries, I'll do it as quick as I can. Yeah. People were shouting me, slow down, and stay with us, just because it highlighted how unfit they were, but I stuck to my guns and I did me. Because of the core fundamentals. Because of my core fundamentals. You'd grown up with. You're a professional. Yeah. My dad, even when I was playing Sunday League, I was 7. My dad's like, clean your boots before you go. You make sure your boots are clean, your bag's ready the night before. I was that kid. Yeah. And then through Tranmere, I'd do training, 2 hours of training, and I'd say to my dad, drop me off a mile away from home so I can run. I was that kid. Solid.
So, I mean, bullying carries a lot of negative connotation.
Yeah.
And it is negative in a sense, but to view it as bullying, what was the impact it had on you from a character perspective? Because, I mean, the stories I'm hearing now and the David Webb that I know now are very close together. If that middle portion had negativity attached to it, what impact did it have on you? And I'm asking this so I understand the brevity of what it then took to work back to the Dave that we know today.
Yeah. It sent me to another level.
Okay.
And it sent me to another level of discipline. It sent me to another level of proving people wrong. So, and it sometimes it takes you the other way and puts you in the shell and makes you like kind of shy away from it. But I went, all right. I was driven by the adversity. I was driven by the isolation, because I was on my own. There was I had a handful of people that kind of stuck with me throughout the whole whole time. But yeah, rather than like shying away and okay, I'll listen to you, I just went a completely different level.
Do you think that's as a result of the competitive nature of motocross and having to fight through those laps by yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And once again, without understanding and going through self-development and learning different things, that was just my natural go-to. That's just what I did. I didn't think about it, I just did it. But then I always had my mum and dad in my background. My dad, if anything was wrong, he's like, I'll come into school. I'm like, no, just leave it. He always wanted to fight my fight my battles, but be there to support me. But then I always knew I had someone I could rely on, which is a good and a bad thing at times, because I always knew I was safe.
Yeah.
That's not real life.
True, but it's always good to have a safety
always
net
good to have.
whilst you can still have one.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, as I say, it's only when I get older now and reflect, I'm like, okay, I'm very grateful for that. But there was some part of my life which adversity was bigger than it had to be just because of the experience I had. Yeah. Whereas some people who have nothing come out quicker because they've experienced it from a younger age. So yeah, that's where the fitness went to another level. That's where I will prove people wrong went to another level. That's where there was never a I'll prove myself right. There was a I'll prove others wrong. And that for me was a driving force, but it's really turned into a negative one in the end.
I think it will always be.
Yeah.
And I think whenever you live a life where it's all placed around other people, and how other people perceive you, you never live in the fullness of who you are.
No.
Right? And that's always going to be a problem. So, okay, so you've worked through this, you've navigated through this, you're fighting these battles.
Yeah.
Existential battles with the people around you who are trying to pull you backwards, with this image of trying to get away from motocross and all the things that are, in essence, stopping you from going to the next level.
Yeah.
You now have to make this decision about what's next in life, which then includes, okay, well, what can I actually do?
Yeah.
And you get this opportunity at the RAF.
Yeah.
Talk me through your first day.
I got shouted at for walking across the grass. I had my ironing board in one hand. I had a massive suitcase and briefcase in another hand, and a massive backpack on with a suit. And I was walking across this grass. Next minute, out of nowhere to be seen. You, get off the effing grass. I was 17 at the time. I'm doing the right thing. Oh no, get back on the path. And instantly I was like, here we go. Right, day one.
Did you know what to expect?
Absolutely no idea.
No, you'd not been prepared at all?
Absolutely no idea, no. I'd never really, because my life had just flown with things and it kind of come out well.
Yeah.
I never gave it a thought. I just kind of arrived and responded instantly. I was like, oh, this could be different to anything I've experienced.
How'd that make you feel? Good feeling?
Definitely out of my comfort zone. It was an interesting feeling because that's the first time I'd ever been away from home. The first time I'd never had my mum and dad behind me or I go home that night.
Yeah.
That was the first time that, right, you are out of the nest now. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what? You've had 18 years to prepare for this. This has been leading you to this moment.
I asked that because I remember my first time away from home. And no one shouted at me, but there was definitely a little bit of. I grew up in backstory, I grew up in a very disciplined household. Very, very disciplined household. Borderline, anyone on the outside would view it as abusive.
Okay.
On the ground, it didn't feel like that. It just felt like very disciplined, very kind of, you walk in these straight lines. And there was a saying that my mom always had, which was, let your yeses be yes. Right? If you're going to do something, go for it.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the fact that a lot of decisions were made for me instead of me being allowed to make those decisions myself. Had I been allowed to make those decisions myself, I probably would have ended up in a lot more positive environments than what was considered. But growing up in South London, which is and has always been since very, very dangerous, I can understand why my parents made the decisions that they made. I say that to say when my first experience outside by myself, the moment I encountered any kind of adverse situation, I found it quite enlightening. Okay. Like it was a beautiful thing for me.
Yeah.
Because it almost felt like everything that I learned up until that point, all the discipline that I'd been yearning to kind of exist in, was designed for that moment.
Nice.
And it just clicked on. And I guess that's why I'm asking you, like, in that moment where you like all the discipline, all the trainings, the training sessions, the giving it 100%, the running a mile the fastest, the being, picking up the cones, the existing in those guardrails.
Yeah.
Now you're in an environment where that is survival.
Yeah, 100%.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it was a bit more of a, I've already got the foundation for this.
Yeah.
And
I'm built for this.
Yeah, I'm built for this. And then it was more so because I was so isolated and that was the first thing, I didn't feel it then. But then when I went inside and seen the people that were there and things started to unfold a little bit, I was like, I was doing things just naturally and people were finding it super hard. I was like, oh, so this is where all my like upbringing and support and how my life has kind of evolved me to this, that I'm already ahead of the game in the discipline side and the time management side and the professionalism, which is where the military, I really started to come into my own in the military setting. Yeah. And as I said, I was one of the youngest out of the whole intake of maybe 80 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that brotherhood was a thing?
During basic training was definitely one of them. But then, basic training was definitely one. When you're getting shouted at to sew your name in your socks at 3 a.m, and then you get waken up at like 5 a.m. on a random parade and they start throwing your locker around that you've spent 8 hours ironing, and it's just to try and break you down. Yeah. And then when you start looking around and just seeing like your mate smiling at you or something, it's just kind of we're in this together. Yeah.
For those that don't know you as well as I do, I'm saying this because for as long as I've known you, maybe 70% of your existence is to help people. It's to bring people along. It's to get people to the fullness of who they are. Yeah. And so this is the reason I'm asking you, when did you realize that brotherhood or helping people was a thing? Because it seems to me there was a turning point, right? You go from existing as this lone figure, always winning by yourself, to now everything that you do, that I know you for, is how can I make people better? When did the penny drop?
And if I'm honest, with the first intention being to genuinely help others, probably only the last 4 years or so. Before that, subconsciously, without me even realizing, once again, now I can look back and reflect, was more so because if I helped somebody, I felt the worthiness.
So you're self-fulfillment.
Bit of a selfish aspect, and I didn't realize it at the time. And it was, I was learning more, so then I could be more, and then I could give more. But it wasn't I love who I am. I can help anybody that needs help, but I'm not going to go and try and help people off my own back and go, do you need help? Do you want me to help you? Yeah. And it was more so, that was a bit more of if I could help someone, I showed my worth.
Yeah. Can I be vulnerable and open, which is something that I love to do all the time. There was a time, I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe, when I was still playing, and I think I reached out to you to make an introduction into one of the teams that you were playing at. Yeah. And I remember you saying to me, oh, I'm not sure, it's not going to... And I'm being vulnerable because I remember walking away from it thinking, is this guy everything that he preaches? Like, everything I see, is he actually living it by that? Because it didn't feel like you were trying to help me. Yeah. It just felt like you were wanting to win. Yeah. It's like, fair enough. But I'm one of those people that I'm going to go and do my thing anyway. And I bring that up because, again, watching your evolution, from that to now, something has changed. And I want to understand what influenced that change. Like, was it a person? Was it something you read? What caused that penny to drop where you realized that this life that we live is not to be lived on an island, and that there are actually multiple hundreds and thousands of people that will benefit from what we've learned, and the benefit of the experiences we've had to be disciplined, to understand the body, to work hard, to be resilient and attack everything with tenacity. What have you? had time to think about it?
Probably just the things I've started consuming over the last 4 years, because the truth is, with anybody, what you consume, you become. And back in the day, I used to consume a lot of Gary V hustle work. Like, you need to work hard when people are sleeping, you're up, and I was very grind, hustle. That's where that like discipline and drive came from. And then there was a pivotal moment, one in the RAF, which then transitioned my RAF career. One of the pivotal moments in my military career was my boss called me in and he goes, something's on your mind. And then we got talking, then he went, you're 60 years of age and you're telling your grandkids or the younger generation your life story. What do you tell them?
What's your legacy?
And I went, if I continue doing what I'm doing, I can tell them 1 year and say, copy and paste that for 8 years.
And they can?
Because it was the same life on repeat. I was living in the cycle. I was living the same Monday to Friday. I stopped getting invited out by friends because they were like, I know what you do on a Wednesday all day. Yeah. I know what you do on a Friday because you do the same every week. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I'm disciplined. And it's the discipline that I've been living in that's been reinforcing the standards.
It's your identity.
My identity, but I've got no life.
Yeah.
I'm great at completing a loop. I'm great at completing a pattern. No one will come close to me, but within my four walls. And then I left the military. So that was my first eye-opening experience. Like, wow, I'm getting rid of a pension. I'm getting rid of the safety net. I'm getting rid of everything that I believed to be true. And my mum and my dad wasn't. My dad was a bit more like, what you're doing, it's a silly mistake. And then he kind of softened and went, you know what, whatever you decide to do, whatever you've done in your whole life, you've succeeded and I trust you now.
Why did you leave the military?
For that reason. I was living life on repeat and I was like, there's so much more. And I'd done a lot of, not so much personal work, I thought it was, but it was consumption. And I was consuming self-development stuff and like ice baths, how to change the body. I could push my body to a different level because that was where I'd get uncomfortable, but I wouldn't necessarily get uncomfortable with my emotions or myself.
Yeah. So
I got into the best physical shape possible that I thought would make me happy, and it never felt the most empty I've ever been. And that started that's when it started to click and go, ooh, it's nothing to do with the body. Everything is the mind.
Correct.
Everything is the mind. When you start unlocking this aspect of the mind, the body's irrelevant.
The body follows.
You look in the mirror and love who you are.
Yeah.
And then the rest will take shape.
Yeah.
Whereas I was running away from the mind, distracting myself because the gym made me feel good. Success made me feel good. Getting validation from you going, thank you for your help, made me feel good. I didn't look in the mirror and feel good.
Yeah.
So then that shifted and then I made that decision to move to Dubai. And then there was actually a spiritual aspect within that before as well. And I was never spiritual. I was very just down the line, disciplined, military guy, boom. And then someone opened me up and went, you drive 4 hours a day. You're going to die in the car. What a life is that? Someone literally just point out, and I'm very grateful for that conversation and the time that they were in my life for. It was, you're going to die in the car. Is that the life you want to live?
4 hours. So what? 2 hours to train and 2 hours back?
2 hours so I wake up every morning. I didn't want the military lifestyle. So I drove to and from camp. 2 hours in the morning to camp, do work, either an hour to training and an hour back to camp, or 2 hours back home. Then I'd coach in the evening and then I'd go to sleep and repeat. Yeah. That's every day.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
Saturday was football day, so I'd go and travel to when I was playing semi-professional football. And then Sunday was a time where I just absolutely disconnected and I was smoked. And then I'd repeat the same week.
That's never healthy.
I did that for 5 years on repeat.
Right.
On repeat.
So Dubai comes along.
And oh, wow, I was great at completing, you are here, you have to do this. Whatever is in between, the military give you ownership to kind of find your own way, but you've got an endpoint.
Yeah.
When you're self-employed, when you're an entrepreneur, you've got no endpoint. You decide yourself, you just keep evolving. So then I was like, okay, I need a bit of a different approach. I started to kind of feel a lack of discipline, but it wasn't. It was just a lack of structure and the lack of stability that I'd always had. So then that started to shake me up a little bit. And then new people, new mindsets. Then I started consuming a bit more of, I've always consumed Tony Robbins, but a bit more of Tony Robbins' work. And a little bit more like you can shift your perspective. You can change your mind. You always have a choice.
Yeah.
You always have a choice. Whereas before, the choice never came along because I never seen the problem. And then one book that completely changed my life was Michael Singer.
Okay.
Michael Singer's, and I'm saying it changed my life. I can't even remember the Untethered Soul. Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, completely changed my perspective. And one of the quotes within the book went, You think your life is hard, but when you zoom out, you're spinning on a rock in the middle of nowhere.
Correct.
And you have this blessing to be alive, and you think you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm. It isn't, is it?
Be real.
Yeah.
Like, let go of the ego.
Yeah.
The world doesn't revolve around you. The world is spinning no matter what. And with that lens, I could just kind of like release a lot of tension that was on my mind, and a lot of everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be a certain way. And then I kind of once again found the flow in life a little bit more.
Okay. So self-employed, talk to me about that. Talk to me about actually coming to Dubai and building something from the beginning.
Yeah, so I came to Dubai, and once again, the things open up as and when you least expect it. So I got offered a job opportunity initially with F45, and that kind of gave me a base. And for whatever reason, the owner of F45 at the time said, come to Dubai, you can have my apartment for 2 to 4 weeks. I'm away. You can have my car. I'd landed on my feet.
Wow.
That doesn't happen. You don't really get those opportunities to kind of have that base to begin with.
I've had many a conversation, and most people don't start off like that.
Yeah. Never asked for it. I got offered it. It came to me. I was like, okay, thank you very much. Very grateful. And then, so F45 maybe lasted about like 3 months, and I started like building my own client base and started outreaching to different people and just being in different circles. And then I left F45 and then started taking my own stuff much more seriously, because I was like, right, there's a place for this, which is self-development, which is human performance at its core, which is I focus on the human themselves. So many people go into businesses, and businesses want people to help build the business. I build people. I support people.
Excellent.
That way.
Excellent.
And I was like, okay, that's what I'm made to do. I've always had a thirst for self-development and to get better. It was from an ego side initially, but now the ego's slowly dissolving. It's for why wouldn't you want to live like that?
Of course.
I don't need it, but what I consume and who I'm surrounded by improves my life tenfold. Why wouldn't I be more conscious with that?
Of course.
Why my 20s disappeared chasing £1 million. I was chasing the money.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I was chasing a feeling that I thought the money would bring.
Okay.
And I can now sit here and genuinely feel happy no matter what is going on, no matter what is around me, because I understand that's a state, and it's a state of mind.
So what is that state then? What is that legacy? What does that look like?
Legacy?
Yeah. What is that? Because you're saying you're no longer chasing the money.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the same question your guy in the army asked you, your sergeant asked you, which is, in 30 years' time, what is that legacy? What would you want somebody to say when they're asked, who's David Webb?
He was the lighthouse I never knew I needed. A lighthouse doesn't look for the ships, it just shines.
Yeah.
And when you can be that person, the energy fuels the lighthouse, but that comes from within. And you just provide your light to the world, and whoever is ready to resonate with it at that time, and it'll hit a nerve at a certain time when they're ready for it. I used to be the fisherman. I used to go fishing to try and help people.
Yeah.
But now my conscious focus is to shine as bright as I can every second of every day, and be real with it, not positive self-talk and cover over cracks and be like, hey, life is perfect. It's not. But we have a lens that we can see through, and you can see problems as a negative, or you can see problems as an opportunity. You have a problem, or you get to experience a problem, you get to solve a problem. And that lens that now I've slowly started to download from my own mind is slowly building the lighthouse. Okay. And I just want to kind of be that space that is open and is ready for anybody who wants to explore that.
You mentioned that the energy comes from within.
Yeah.
So what are your 3 fundamental truths?
3 core fundamental truths. So that's where the uncommon life came in. There's only one you. Stop trying to be like everyone else.
Okay.
There's no such thing as normal.
Okay.
Focus on the breath you're having right now, not the one you're yet to have and the one that's past.
I like that. I like that.
That's
Live in the moment.
And that's taken me a really long time and a lot of battle, and I still battle with it now. But one thing I've really started to try and do is be more vulnerable, be more honest. I used to think people wanted the perfect coach, so I never used to show my vulnerabilities. And my vulnerabilities were at an all-time high and no one's seen them. People saw the perfect disciplined guy who got up at 5 and was in the ice bath.
Yeah.
That was to hide from what I was feeling. That was to distract myself from thinking how I was feeling because I felt good in the ice.
Yeah.
So I had to train because I felt good training. So I needed to do a list because I felt good doing a list. I was trying to find this dopamine that stopped me to think, that kept me distracted long enough to not think about the mind.
Yeah. See, that's really interesting because I'm very much the same. So I lead with my vulnerability. I'll be vulnerable first because if I get that out the way, there's nothing negative anymore. There's no other way for you to destroy me because I've led with it.
Yeah, 100%.
So everything afterwards is just positivity, and I'm just gonna go. So it's beautiful. There are two questions that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast, which I'm going to ask you. But before I get to those two questions, I'm going to ask you again, just to close out the conversation. We started off by asking you, who is David Webb? Now we've had a whole conversation about who is David Webb. Reintroduce yourself. Who would you say you are?
Exactly the same as I introduced myself with. Just now, you, the guys listening, understand a little bit more of the backstory that's created this guy in front of you. And it's taken, as I said before, it's taken me a long time to not introduce my accolades. I'm not my accolades. I'm not tied to anything. I've been given this vessel to experience this world, to bring as much value and much support and much love as possible. And it's taken me a long time to understand that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, as one of the people that has the pleasure of encountering you and calling you a friend and having opportunities like this, thank you for being you. Thank you for being wholly you. Thank you for using yourself, your vessel, your mind, your experience, your wisdom to impact others. Because I think in a world that is constantly teaching us to exist in silo and to win by ourselves, it's always refreshing to find people that are willing to bring people on that journey with them. So on that note, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now to the fun part. If you were to see or recommend anyone at all on the Mentality Podcast, who would you ask to come on?
Sahel Var.
And what conversation will we have with Sahel Var?
Very similar. Very similar from the very similar mentality, very similar vulnerability, a very grateful approach to life, and not to ruin the surprise, but what he's built in the last few years is truly incredible. Yeah. And that comes from the mind that is leading it. Yeah.
So I've watched Sahel for many years now when he was doing his 365 challenges. Yeah. I actually have Sahel's number on my phone.
Good guy, great guy.
So I'm going to reach out to him.
Great guy.
I'm going to reach out to him and get him on. And it will be good to, and I've seen him do a few things, but it will be good to delve deeper. Yeah. Which is where I think a lot of people don't usually see. So, Sahel's great at telling his story, great at telling what, but I want to see what's deeper. So hopefully, inshallah, as they say, we'll be able to get him on and have that conversation. You also run your own podcast, David, right? Where you have conversations with people about the transformations that they've been to. Yeah. Look into that camera and tell people where they can find you, where they can get in contact, and also the conversations that you have, and plug that a little bit.
Perfect. Guys, the Uncommon Life started from my own journey, and it realized that you are uniquely imperfect but perfect in your own way, and life needs you exactly the way you are. It doesn't want a carbon copy of everybody else, and that's where the Uncommon Life came from. The common life is being like everybody else. The uncommon life is living your truth, because you'll find the people that resonate with you. You'll create the circles around you much more powerfully and authentically, and people who actually love you for you and not who you're trying to be or perceive to be. And that's when you'll really start opening up the next level of your life. The Uncommon Life leads to the Life by Design, and that's my coaching package. That is my coaching program, helping you design your own life consciously, intentionally, and on purpose. As Manny said, the Uncommon Conversation is something slightly similar to this, where we delve deep and not going to steal his thunder because this is a fantastic podcast. If you guys want to search a little bit more, The Uncommon Conversation, and you'll see the guests that I have on there as well. If you want to reach out, follow the David Webb on social media. And if you're ready to escape the loop, escape the trap that you feel stuck in, and not at breaking point, but at a point where you are ready now to, you know what, I'm made for more, send a DM and I'm more than happy to help.
The last fun question is, if there were 3 songs that would describe David Webb, what would they be?
Oh, what type of question is that? 3 songs.
Yeah. This one always throws people off.
3 songs.
Let me rephrase. If there were 3 songs that have influenced and had a place in your life, what would they be?
You know what? I probably can't give you a definitive answer on certain songs. There's different songs or different artists in different eras that have helped me through different things.
Give me that.
So Justin Bieber, definitely one. When I was younger, going through heartbreaks and stuff like that, that's something I could resonate and love a good sing song. So that was always one. Lewis Capaldi.
Yes.
And you'll notice that even I'm noticing why I'm saying it. They're a bit more emotional kind of.
That's correlation.
Attachment to it. And Forrest, what's his name? He's a new artist or a fairly new artist. He does. I'm gonna have a good day.
Oh, in every single way.
Him.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit more of the. I'm not singing. That's been a bit more of a recent kind of update. I'm like, you know what? It's powerful what you listen to, you become. So you need to listen to things that are going to uplift you. Listen to things that are telling you you are enough and you don't need anything else.
Consume all the right things.
Because if you focus on, yes, you will consume songs that you resonate with, but that's keeping you in the feeling that you're feeling. Do you want to sit in that uncertainty and that upset and that heartbroken feeling? Or do you want to break out of it? And so that's where things start to shift a little bit.
Excellent.
And now actually enjoying sounds and not music, just listening to sounds, less lyrics.
What kind of sounds?
Bit more piano, bit more just soulful, calming. Because one thing I've noticed, and especially being in Dubai, you can get caught up in the tornado very, very easily. And no matter how mindful you are, you can get sucked in. And having an anchor point of a song or a kind of sound that just brings you back is powerful.
On that note, many years ago, about 10 years ago, I started listening to Brazilian samba.
Okay.
The sounds.
Okay.
Not the songs, the sounds.
I'll need
Big
to.
impact.
Okay.
Give it a go.
Definitely not that then.
On that note, this is Mentality Podcast.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, bud.